The biggest question that I seem to get is whether or not someone should run a welded diff in their daily driver. So I thought I'd make this video to address some of the concerns of you guys, and hopefully it helps you out in your decision making. Alright, so to get into it, the first thing I'm going to cover is tire wear, because that seems to be one of the biggest topics on running a welded diff for a daily or not. Plain and simple, yes, it does wear out your tires quicker because every time you make it turn, your inner wheel has to break traction and wear away at the rubber on it. So you do obviously wear out your tires a lot faster than just having an open diff or something else, where you're not constantly shaving away your inner tire when doing a turn. Here I have an example of how much your tire is going to wear out with a welded diff daily driving. This tire and wheel combo right here I used to run on my old car when I specifically was daily driving that car, and these tires and wheels were specifically meant for daily driving and they were not even drifted on. First thing to note, of course, is that it does have camber wear and it's on the outside, and that's just because I flipped the tire once it started to wear out on the inside. As you can see right here, it's pretty much bald on the inside bar. And this happened, I'm going to say, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 miles of daily driving the car. Obviously, there's still some life left on the outside because I was running a bit of camber on that car. So it's just above the wear bars over here, but it's well into the wear bar on the inside. And so realistically, I feel like this tire would have worn out maybe around 5,000 miles on the car. Now, for me personally, the tire aspect of it isn't a big deal. On a normal track day doing solid runs, I'll go through a brand new pair of tires. And so if I'm going through a brand new pair of tires in a day, I really don't mind it when a brand new pair of tires lasts 5,000 miles, because to me that seems way longer than just a day of driving. Moving on. Next thing that people are concerned with daily drivers is that welded diff makes parking so much harder. I don't even know where this came from, honestly. Parking is just parking. I think it's fairly simple to do, and I don't really see how the welded diff affects that much. Your front end does tend to push out more at low speeds just because both wheels are moving at the same rate. However, taking that into consideration, I never found it a big deal to park with a welded diff. Moving on from that, another concern that people have is that driving around at slow speeds doing tight turns kind of is a pain. Again, that's never really been an issue. It just gets kind of noisy just because the inner wheel is obviously breaking traction all the time, and so you do get the noticeable chirp from the tires when you're doing that, and that wears out your tires quite quickly, as well as puts a lot of strain on your axles when you're doing those really tight maneuvers. So for instance, a lot of times when doing U-turns, I would try and make my U-turns bigger than usual just so I would put less strain on the axles and less wear on the tires. But as far as any inconvenience to driving at low speed, to me it seems negligible. On from that, a big concern is breaking axles. Now, a lot of people, when they message me about it, they feel as if they're going to be breaking axles every other day with it. That's not really the case at all. Do you run a higher chance of breaking an axle? Yes, obviously it depends on your car, how tight of the turns you're doing. If you live in a city where you're constantly doing tight turns and U-turns and tight parking spots, then obviously the chance of you breaking an axle is going to be much higher than some guy who lives out in the country and he has just wide open roads, a lot of smooth turns, nothing really super tight. And then of course you have to think about what tires you're running. So for instance, if you're daily driving on a 195, which is a pretty small tire on a 240, you're not really going to be breaking an axle running a welded diff with a 195. And as you can see here, if you're running a 215, there's a higher chance of you breaking an axle. And if some guy is running a 265 wide tire that's super grippy, like a Toyo R888 or something, then obviously there's going to be a much higher chance that a guy running a Toyo R888 in a 265 is going to be breaking an axle compared to a guy running an all-season or something in a 195. So really there's no black and white answer on how often you're going to be breaking your axles. It really depends on what tires you're running and where you live, and obviously how strong the axles are on the car that you're running. Another concern that people bring up to me is the noise that the welded diff causes. So welded diff doesn't really cause noise if you're just driving straight or driving around normally. It's really only if you are going to be in tight parking spots and doing tight maneuvers, just because the inner wheel has to be breaking traction. And that's pretty much the only added noise that you're going to get from it. Okay, another concern that people have is that they think that when they run a welded diff, they're just basically going to be drifting around every single corner, and like the car is just like never going to grip up properly. That's completely false and really isn't a concern. I will insert a clip right now of doing some canyon driving. Now, I'm not going to be pushing it because I really don't do canyon driving, but you will be able to see that if you're doing some sort of spirited driving with a welded diff, it's not like you're just going to be sliding every single corner. You do have to actually try and make it slide. It doesn't kind of just kick out from you. Now, me personally, on the thousands of miles that I've driven with a welded diff, I've only had one incident where the rear end, kicked out on me unintentionally. And I was running this tire that you can see right here, and this is before I flipped the tires to the outside. So this contact patch used to be on the inside. It was raining that day, and I was trying to make a light and make a left turn, and so I came in kind of fast, and then I, obviously hit my brakes, so, weight transfer all the way to the front. And then I turned in, and then as I was turning in, the rear end kind of kicked out, maybe a half turn of counter steer right there, and then of course just keep steady throttle, and then it came back around. And that's the only instance when the rear end kicked out on me unintentionally. Pretty much as long as you're going to be driving normally, you're going to have perfectly fine grip in the rear going around corners. So to sum it up, on whether you should run one or not, I think it's just kind of a personal thing. You have to take away from looking at all different aspects of it and see if it works out for you. My personal opinion is to go out there and get a welded diff and just put it in your car and drive around with it and see if you like it or not. For a 240SX specifically, you can get an open diff for 20 bucks or 40 bucks, and you can get a welded diff for anywhere from like 50 bucks to 100 bucks. And it's going to take like 2 hours tops for a beginner to swap out a diff. So you could always pick up a welded diff super cheap for like 100 bucks, put it in your car for 2 hours of work, drive around, see if you like it, and if you don't, then you can just go pull it back out, put in your OEM one, and then go sell the welded diff. So anyways, that's my advice, and I hope this video cleared up some of your concerns for running a welded diff for a daily driver. Alright, see you guys in the next video.